Blech. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to today's show. We are talking about Dexter the New Blood, and to do that, I have a friend with me, VJ Horton. You may know him from previous TV discussions we've done here on the channel. I think we spoke about Cobra Kai and Vikings, or maybe it was Cobra Kai and Vikings. Well, I have brought him back. He gobbles up TV the way I do, and we have similar tastes. So I said, hey, why don't you come back and we'll discuss Dexter. So here he is. I'm gonna pop him in. What's going on? How are you?
Hey, hi guys. Great to be here.
Glad to have you. So let's just dive right into it.
Yeah.
Are Dexter wrapped up a little while ago. I had kind of been I was watching week by week, and then my wife fell out of it. We used to watch Dexter together, and she was just not into it. So I was waiting for her, and I committed serial TV infidelity, which is amongst couples, you can't, if you're watching a show and then you go behind their back and watch it without them, it's a huge it's a huge faux pas. But I told her, I said, look, I'm doing this. You're out of it. We've let like 4 weeks go by, 5 weeks go by. The show is finished up now. I'm just going to finish it out. So I did. And so it's nice to be, that's the problem is you can wait, or you can watch it week to week. And I will say there is something to watching it week to week, because like a serialized show, because it gives you something to look forward to on Sunday or whatever the day is, and it's like that little pick me up during the week. And that's a nice tonic. That's a nice little something as opposed to just being a greedy Gus and gobbling the whole series in a day and a half. So I don't know. What do you prefer to do?
Yeah. I like either. I think there are certain shows that by design are better to watch week to week. And I would say Dexter actually falls into that category. And there are shows that are made to be binged. Like a binge show. If there's one on right now with Jeremy Renner called Mayor of Kingstown. It's the dude that did Yellowstone in 1883. It's good. It's really good, but it plays like one long movie. I think the best way to watch that show is to binge the first 5, then binge the second 5. And I would not want to. Well, I did have to watch it week to week because that's how they were putting it out. But the whole time I was like, I just want to binge this because it was so continuous. But something like say Dexter, where yes, it is telling a seasonal arc, but the shows are a little more contained.
Right.
I find those to be better week to week. And honestly, just over the past 6 months, I started watching a lot of premium, like Showtime shows and HBO shows. And usually those do the weekly model. And I really look forward to Sundays now, or at least I was. Now it seems like they're all gone.
Oh, you got to know, you have to start watching The Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, I am watching that one. Yes.
We'll talk about that in the future as well. Yeah, it's a weird. I agree with you. And what's interesting too? It's amazing how I don't know if this is back in the day or if it's now or whatever, how like you'll look at a movie and be like, oh, that running time is too long. It's 3 hours. It's 2.5 hours. Meanwhile, you could like crap out. You literally could shit out 2 hours, 2 50-minute shows where nothing fucking happens and people will binge them back to back, as opposed to a movie where like 1,000 things are happening over a 2-hour runtime. Oh, it's going too long. It's so weird how we've sort of like, when we look at how it's weird how like you look at one thing one way and another thing, like for instance, how we eat pigs, but dogs are pets. You know what I mean? Like it's just, it's, if you eat meat, that is.
What was it, Cobra Kai? I mean, I sat and watched that last season in one setting. I watched 10 half an hour episodes for
half hours. It's easier to do.
It is easier.
5-hour mini
series. But still, that's a 5 hour. Basically a movie. In a setting. But minus maybe getting up to eat and stuff.
But that's like, I mean, that's what we love so much, I think, about serial watching too. It's like I have all this content to look forward to, and yes, it gets in the way of productivity and progress and life in general, but sometimes you just want to check out and dive into this world. And with movie theaters sort of like not being very functional right now, serialized TV has never been better for the average content consumer. Now the first question I want to ask in terms of Dexter is, before we even get there, let me ask you this: do we both agree that season 4 was the peak pinnacle of that show?
Yes.
Okay.
For me, it's real. I understand that season 4 is the generally considered to be the peak of the show.
Yeah.
I personally, and it's just my thing, I enjoyed 2. I enjoyed 2 a lot, and like the promise of 2. And I think what John Lithgow was the best villain by far.
Yeah.
But I was a little more engaged in season 2 early on. Like I thought by season 4 it had started to kind of repeat itself a little bit. It was good, but it was I felt Trinity was basically just a better version of the ice truck killer, but it was similar.
Right. Yeah, for me, season 4, I mean, I liked season 1 through 3. I thought they were great. I have no complaints there, but season 4, and yes, it's universally accepted that season 4 is the pinnacle of that show. But season 4 is not just the pinnacle of Dexter. It might be, as I remember, because I haven't seen it since 2009. So it's been 12
me
years.
neither. Yeah. I should rewatch it.
I should rewatch it too, especially after the last. This is spoilers, by the way. If you have not, don't watch it. We're gonna spoil. Just get out of here. Come back after you've seen it. But it's still, even 12 years later. Has it been 12 years? About 12 years. 13 years. 13 years later. God, where the fuck does the time go? That season still sticks out to me as just, I remember being on the edge of my seat. There's there's when a season of television just fucking kicks, and it's so hard to find that when that's what the kind of like the dragon you're chasing when the writing is just so perfect and you literally cannot stop consuming episodes. And for me, season 4 was just the ultimate. And of course, season 4 was so good. I kept returning year after year after year, chasing that dragon that is season 4, and we just never got it. And the show just slowly unravels, and frankly, really breaks down. I think of the show, like the point of no return is when Dexter gets caught by Deb. I had forgotten about this. Dexter gets caught by Deb doing his little ritual thing. And Dexter's kind of like a spider. He wraps everything up in plastic. He wraps his prey up in plastic, and then he saves it for later. And then he uses a knife to pierce his prey instead of fangs. That's Dexter's MO kind of. And he uses poison to knock out his prey, and then he wraps them up like a spider. When Deb makes the decision to kill her LaGuerta instead of Dexter, or instead of arresting Dexter, that's when the show just completely disintegrates into nothingness.
Was that before or after she fell in love with him?
That was definitely after, and that was also weird.
That was the shark jump moment for me.
That was bad.
That was like
really
General
bad.
Hospital level, like soap
opera.
Oh my God. I still to this day can't believe that.
Especially when she was sleeping with Dexter's biological brother.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah,
right?
I forgot that too.
Season 1. So it's like, it's just so weird. And it's weird and sort of you forget that Dexter killed his own brother at the beginning of the show. The show just really just unravels bit by bit, and we are left with a ending that is so unsatisfying. Well, first, let me ask you this. What is it that you love so much about Dexter? What made Dexter so addictive and likable, and just what hooked you into the show?
So I've always liked anti-hero shows, and Dexter was such Michael C. Hall was so charismatic in it. And, from episode 1, I was on his side, and I was afraid he was going to get caught. And I feared for this serial killer,
right.
And I was ready to follow him through, basically through 8 seasons, 4 good ones and 4, not so great.
Yeah, dude. I would say the same. It's like the voiceover. It's so interesting how, in general, from almost like a pretentious film perspective,
Yeah,
whatever you
yeah.
want to call it, people will always tell you voiceovers are bad.
Yep.
Don't do voiceovers. Voiceovers are not good storytelling. Show, don't tell. But when you have, but there is a time when voiceover works really well, and that's case in point with Dexter, where
Yeah.
yes, as you said, here's a serial killer who's kind of a good guy, kind of a vigilante, who we are so concerned, we're so afraid that we don't want him to get caught. He's doing good things. We're allowed, you know what it was? It's almost kind of like the prerequisite for Walter White and Breaking Bad, because
Yeah.
we feel bad rooting for Walter White because he like literally, enables the killing of children and all sorts of monstrous, horrible things. He lets Jane die. Probably the most monstrous thing he did was letting Jane die, I think, out of all the
Yeah.
monstrous things that he's done. He's done a lot. But we were made to feel slightly guilty for rooting for Walter White. We are sort of made to feel not guilty rooting for Dexter because he does a good job. He's doing a good thing. Just again, like a spider, we like spiders because spiders kill mosquitoes. Spiders eat mosquitoes, which are a plague to society. And Dexter is like a spider that's taking care of things that are plagues on society. So it's like we're allowed to not feel guilty about rooting for a serial killer with Dexter. And then that's accomplished in part by this amazing voiceover where we get inside his head. He's talking to us. He's not just talking to himself. He's talking to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a great podcast meme where it's like you see somebody sitting with a picture and like this is what it's like to listen to a podcast where like you're not really there.
Yeah. Like you're hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of like what we kind of get with Dexter a little bit.
Yeah. You felt he was letting you into his inner world in a way that a lot of shows don't, and that's because of the novelistic, voiceover. We were hearing his first person thoughts, and again, just because Michael C. Hall's just so damn good. I mean, if you even had even an inkling of liking a show like that, you're gonna fall in love with him. If it's totally not, like against your, morals or your taste. If you like serial killer stuff, you'll most likely really like Dexter.
And then that brings us to the end of the actual series. LaGuardia dies. Deb dies as well. Dexter gets a girlfriend at the end of the show, and she's okay. I don't mind Hannah.
Yeah, I like the actress.
She's in
Handmaid's Tale.
She's great in that too.
Yeah.
And so she kind of becomes like his sidekick in Killing, but the thing that really, the two things that the show does that just kind of I roll my eyes a little bit at is like, we're tired of carrying on with the stepkids. So we're just going to send them away and never hear from them again. So that's one thing. Harrison's kids, he splits up. What's her face? The mom. What's her name?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Why am I forgetting the name? The mom.
And they say it so many times.
I know. Harrison's mom.
Played by
really gonna bother me.
Played by the woman from
who's Dexter's wife? Hold on, I'm asking Google. Rita.
Rita, thank you, Rita.
The lovely Rita meter maid. Yeah,
she was great.
Rita's children get split up from Harrison after she dies, which is such a weird thing. And then he sends his son to go to go with his, I forget why. I think maybe they thought he was going to meet up with them or something. I don't remember what it was, but he dumps Deb's body into the bay where he dumped all his other victims, and he drives into a hurricane. And then there's no explanation how he survives the hurricane. And then we see him as a logger with like the voice is gone inside of his head and he's just not there anymore. Right. How did you think when you're watching all the different seasons of Dexter and you're wondering how this is going to wrap itself up? What did you think was going to happen to Dexter?
So I think the original run of the series, once it got past 4, was just one missed opportunity after another and one bad road taken after another. Like I really thought they were setting it up, around season 3 and 4 for eventually like Deb to kind of take over the Dokes part, where Deb
Oh,
would
that would have
just
been great.
like the sister would it would be him versus her at
Right.
least at some point. And I
Building to
figured
that.
building to that. And I assumed that, somewhere he was going to get caught or he was going to get killed and she was going to bring him to justice, or he was going to kill her, which I guess did happen, but not in the way it should have.
I don't remember how she died. Like she got shot.
I thought he shot her, but to be 100% honest, I watched every single episode in season, was it 8, but I don't remember hardly anything about it. Yeah. Bad dream.
Yeah. So that's a great point, man, and it's true because again, Dexter is ancient for me now. It's been so long since I had seen it and hadn't revisited the series since I watched it the way I did. I will say there is some benefit. I did that with Breaking Bad. I watched Breaking Bad because I had seen that whole thing over the course of from 2008 to 2013, and then hadn't watched it until I think 2 years ago. I watched all 5 seasons, and it was such a glorious, rewarding experience to like watch that change. Yeah. I don't think I would ever do that with Dexter, and I don't really care to remember what happened at the end. All I know is I agree with you. It was building. It's the same thing. Hank Schrader versus Walter White. Same thing. We were supposed to get that with Deb, and instead Deb kills LaGuardia. So it goes back to Deb, that moment when Deb doesn't, because here's the thing, if had they gone into that final end game of Deb versus Dexter, then it would have been instead it's Dexter who kills LaGuardia in order to get away, and then it becomes this cat and mouse game with Dexter as a vigilante, and Harrison has the custody of Harrison.
Right. Honestly, those whole last like 3 seasons felt like a giant elaborate practical joke on Jennifer Carpenter.
So much so. So much so, and it just was not fair to do that to her and turn her into that into a sort of a parody when she had been such a integral force. I mean, Keith Carradine was on the show and he was great.
I did. That was one thing in that little run. I think that was season 5, maybe it was later.
Yeah, he came after season 5 was okay. That was with the barrel girls.
Right.
That was with Johnny Lee Miller. That was an okay season. It's just, you know what it was? It was serious amount of diminishing returns every single season. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then we're left with this ending where Dexter becomes a lumberjack and everybody's like, what a fucking cop out. This is bullshit. Right. No way that they would ever do something like this in Game of Thrones. That would never happen. I mean, what is it with really great shows that just don't know how to stick the ending because they're trying to just go somewhere, do something different? I mean, look at what, again, to Breaking Bad is my golden yardstick, because what does Breaking Bad do? It does 2 things. It answers every single question.
Yep.
And it gives us what we want. It doesn't care about trying to be edgy. It doesn't care about it is edgy. It doesn't care about being edgy.
Right.
It doesn't try and go all to these places that we're not expecting. It just, we literally get these 2 70-minute episodes, the final 2 episodes, those last 3 episodes, that trilogy of episodes. Because the thing about Breaking Bad is that the show actually ends in the third to last episode. If you think about it, the show does not end in the final episode.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Ozymandias, the third to last episode, when Hank dies and they take over and they enslave Jesse, that's the end of the show. That's when Walter completely falls. The final 2 episodes are actually an epilogue. That's how you have to look at the show. And the epilogue is such a salve. It just wraps everything up. Walter White dies. We don't feel bad about Walter White dying. It leaves. I love Better Call Saul, and I love seeing what happens after in the aftermath of Walter White dying. But had we never seen another thing past that moment of Walter White dying, I'm fine. I'm
Oh
okay
yeah,
with that. We're done.
totally.
It's done. The show is done. I like the movie, the spinoff movie with Jesse.
It was okay.
Now, right? Yeah, it was. You know, it was
It was
okay.
fine. It was fine.
It was unnecessary, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
okay. I enjoyed it.
yeah.
I'm glad Jesse. It was a movie about closure for Jesse.
Absolutely.
Now, in what used to be an unprecedented move, and this is slowly changing. We're starting to see revivals of TV. You see it with
A
Fuller.
lot.
Look at Fuller House. Look at like just every show you could imagine. Bel Air now.
We got a Chuck remake revival coming.
There you go. Like you just see all of these shows. Justified. The what's that show with the guy and the girl? Brooke Shields is on it. No, not Brooke Shields. What is that show? God damn it! It was so popular with the gay best friend, and there's 4 of them.
Will and Grace.
Will and Grace. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they just did a revival. Yeah,
they did a revival. I'm saying revivals are super popular. So it used to be that like when a show was done, that was it. Nobody was interested in revisiting. You never got a second bite at the apple. But now we're starting to get all of these revisits. Some of them are really fun. Some of them are really great. And some of them are like better to leave it alone. And some of them are like, okay, the ending was so bad that here's a chance to do things right. And in the case of Dexter, I really like what they do. They're not giving us a brand new show that's going to go on season for season. They gave us one more miniseries follow-up season to sort of wrap things up, to sort of put it all to bed. And let's begin there. How did you feel about it?
So overall, I liked it, and I think your analogy with Breaking Bad and the last 3 episodes being epilogue. I think this was a whole season of epilogue, basically.
You're right.
For the other show.
Mm-hmm.
I think its whole purpose for being was to kind of make up a little bit of that for the fans, and give some actual real closure to the show. And one thing that I will say that I liked that they did is they didn't ignore the bad stuff. Like they left the entire series canon and went from there. And I think they did a pretty admirable job of pulling off a new show in a new setting.
They did. Okay, so they did leave the whole show canon except for one. Again, I'm sitting here wondering, what about Rita'S Kids? Dexter is the adoptive father of these 2 fucking kids.
Well, yeah, but the kid, even in the original show, I'm not saying it was a good decision to lose them, but by season 8, they were gone. Like we
but it's just so crazy because they were very integral to the early parts of the season. It was part of Dexter's double life. So when they're not being cutesy kids anymore, it's like, all right, send those kids off to the pasture, like. And it's just kind of like, but we're going to keep Harrison because Harrison, I don't know. That just really irked me. So that is the only element really that I would say is entirely ignored. Okay. But yes, you're right. It is canon. And I love anything that doesn't shy away from the good and the bad look at Cobra Kai. They have embraced every single thing in the history of that. That's the perfect example of a revival. How people talk about reboots and revivals and requels and remakes? Cobra Kai is the golden triple platinum standard of how to take a mediocre, cheesy 80s sort of thing, not only bring it back, bring all the actors back, and just give us
make it better in retrospect. I mean, yes, I don't want to get too far into Cobra Kai again, but what's his name, Terry Silver. I mean, Karate Kid 3. I think we can pretty much universally agree Karate Kid 3 is not a good movie.
It's a clunker,
and Thomas Ian Griffith, for being good in other things, is not good in Karate Kid 3. It's a pretty awful performance, and he's like he's sublime in Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, it kind of fixes the performance there. Like just that one little line about cocaine. And I was like, holy shit, there he goes. He fixed the performance.
It really is. It's spectacular. It's truly spectacular. And so there is precedent for doing it and doing it successful. So Dexter tries to do this. You're right. The whole series has to be viewed as an epilogue. And we find Dexter in, whatever, like in some other town from the logging town that he probably was in. That was like the beginning of it. And now he's made this whole life. 10 years have passed. And, he's got a girlfriend who happens to be the town sheriff, which is kind of, crazy. One thing that I kind of blows my mind about Dexter, you would imagine that he would have grown a big beard and dyed his hair. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like straight up, like she prints up the photo of him and it's like, oh, that's Jim Lindsay. Like, at least add another layer of confusion where she has to take a marker and color in the beard to get.
Because I would imagine that there were some behind the scenes discussion about that, but at the end of the day, they're like, "Hey, we got Michael C. Hall for 10 episodes, and we're not going to put him in a beard and blonde hair." I bet you money it came down to a production decision, as opposed to creative.
Probably. In any case, I would say it.
But that doesn't diminish what you're saying. You're right.
In story, for me, it adds to something that's always been, Dexter's always followed the code to a T for the most part. He's gotten a little sloppy from time to time in the original
series. Get caught. Yeah.
Right. All the tenets of the code. There is a level of hubris to Dexter.
That's a good point.
He operates in story. This creative decision works towards the advantage of the story in the sense that if you look at Dexter as a character of hubris, in the sense that he really doesn't think that he could possibly get caught, that he always thinks that he could get away. And it ties into the end, because in the end, the right thing to do after doing the thing that, again, which he kind of has broken the code in the original series, but they make a bigger deal of it at the end of this show when he breaks his code. Instead of doing what's right and fully obeying the code, it's like, oh yeah, the code, the code's not convenient for me. I want to live. I want to escape. So it's really more about survival than it is about doing the right thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So in that kind of way, we see that there is like a side to Dexter where he comes from a place of hubris, and he comes from a place of survival, always with survival. He talks about it. He talks about the emotion of, I wanted to die. I didn't want to be around anymore. I didn't want this life, blah, blah, blah. So I drove into the hurricane and I survived. He says, I survived the hurricane and I realized that you were never going to have a good life with me around. So it was better, or he tells this to his girlfriend. So it was better that I just kind of like stayed out of my son's life and just started over, which is partially true. But I always thought, and the reason why I hated the end of season 8 so much was, in my mind, I'm thinking, you have a kid. You have a kid and you've abandoned your son. And that's just like, not like, and Dexter has displayed that he's not completely a sociopath. He's like, he has the ability to feel when he wants to. He has the ability to cry when he wants to. So the whole like, oh, well, he's a sociopath, so of course he would just, burn his kid, burn his kid. But that's not Dexter either. So it really comes off as like this really self-centered decision to abandon his child, and then he survives and he just goes and lives in obscurity somewhere. It just, it never added up to me. It never added up for me until this series, when I'm realizing and seeing like, look at the hubris, look at the way that he sort of conducts himself. And he's trying his best not to, he's been, abstinent for 10 years, right? He hasn't murdered in 10 years without an incident. And then something sets him off. And it's interesting how that white wolf is sort of, I guess, a symbol for Dexter in the sense of him being a wild animal free in the wilderness. And it mirrors what happens to Dexter at the end. Dexter gets shot to death by his son.
Yeah.
In the same way that, so it's kind of that there's an interesting parallel there as well. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeff. So I've decided to make a Patreon. What is Patreon? I don't know how to define a Patreon. Let me look it up. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it very easy
for creators to get paid for the things that they're already creating. I want to do it full-time. I want this to be my full-time job. In my efforts to make that happen, I've set up this platform. Is it going to work? Is it going to be successful? I don't know, but I would rather try and crash and burn than not try at all. The goal is to create enough passive revenue so that I can continue to do this full-time, uninterrupted. Why? Because I love to do this. I love creating content. I love making videos. I love shooting films. I love doing podcasts. In case you couldn't tell, I love to talk and I never shut the fuck up. So right now I've kept the Patreon incredibly simple. There's 2 tiers, and that may change in the future. The Murdergram is a simple way to extend support for all of the hours and hours of free content on the channel for nothing more than $1. 38 cents goes to Patreon. What's $1.38, eh? It's less than a cup of coffee, but it's a great way that you can show support for very little effort. When you divide that $1.38 by the hours and hours and hours of time spent listening to this endless drivel of content, the dollar cost average works out. Next up is the YouTube casualty for $6.66. The YouTube casualty is loaded to the gills. Enjoy the archive ad-free, as well as ad-free early access to special docu-style podcast videos, music reaction commentaries, and the like, a month before they drop on YouTube, loaded with ads, I might add. You're also going to get exclusive content and behind-the-scenes content that is not available on YouTube or anywhere else. So you get to peek behind the veil. And believe me, there's a couple of choice pieces. Most of all, more than anything, whether you join the Patreon or not, I just want to thank each and every one of you that comes to the channel, that watches all the shows, that leaves comments, that participates, that subscribes. That's really the most important thing. This is just trying to find a way to earn a living as an artist. And with that, thank you for my TED Talk. Join the Patreon, because we need you! 66 cents.
What didn't work for you in this new season?
So this is kind of arbitrary, but you know, it's at 10 episodes. I think it was an 8 episodes of story. So I was totally into the first like 2 or 3. I thought it kind of treaded water for a few, and you know, by the end I was like, this should have been like 2 shorter. So the pace didn't really, a lot. Yeah, especially in today's, you know, streaming world, there are lots of series that go on. So it's like, it's a chronic thing at Netflix, you know, just like, although this is Showtime, but still. Actually, it does bring up an interesting point about Showtime, though. I can't think of any other network that has ran so many long-running shows into the ground. Like
Shameless.
Californication.
Oh my God, Californication, big time.
I was just thinking about this the other night, and I thought of like 6 of them. You know, and I was like,
go ahead. What are the other 3?
Well, now I'm blanking.
It's interesting that is an interesting observation, and it's true. What happens is they get something really good, like Shameless, which went for I think 11 seasons, should have ended in season 7.
Yeah.
When Fiona buys the building and Monica dies, the show, and they filmed that ending because they knew that they might not come back for season 8. It was the perfect place to leave them. Everybody's in a good place, and they choose instead. They go on and on and on, and just ran that show so deep into the ground.
All I can figure is like Showtime just must be a wonderful place to work for. Like is all I can, because their shows tend to go a long time. They tend to go way past their expiration date.
Right.
And I can't imagine that the creators of some of these shows are still like, oh yeah, we're still on top. You know, they're just like, hey, but it's just such a wonderful gig. I can't let it go.
Yeah, it's a paycheck. We got to figure out how to keep Dexter killing, or how to keep Fiona keeps fucking up her life, no matter how. You know, it was so wonderful to see Fiona pull herself out of the gutter, to see Lip get sober, and then see just as quickly Fiona loses everything and Lip relapses. And it's just like, why do we have to go there? Like, why? Like, you know, it's so annoying. Like, it's such a it's one of those things like, oh, well, if he got sober, he's got to relapse, or like, oh, she built herself up, but we got to tear her back down because that's the Gallagher way. It's just so stupid to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Showtime definitely has this problem. It makes me worried about Yellow Jackets, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Totally. And the other thing that worked for me, I did like Clancy Brown. I thought the character got a little short shifted at the end. I expected a little bit more there as far as their confrontation. It felt anticlimactic for sure. And since we didn't get a big, since it was a quiet, character moment send off, it would have been nice to have a really climactic, battle with the villain before that, to give us that like payoff that, oh yeah, that's awesome, and it just didn't have that. It just kind of wrapped up. He turned out to not be very formidable.
So first of all, I love Clancy Brown in everything that he is in. I love him. I loved him in this too. Mm-hmm. Loved his character, loved him in this. I thought one of the biggest mistakes of Dexter in general, it was the way that they sort of went back to like the serialized formula of the show. We said this was an epilogue, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that wherever Dexter goes, he seems to stumble upon a serial killer is just so ridiculously stupid. Like the fact that there was a 25-year going serial killer right under Dexter's nose that whole time. For 10 years, he was living there and girls disappearing. For him to suddenly sort of after he makes a murder, does he start to realize the situation? And he has like a whole underground bunker where he keeps the girls. And it's just like, dude, so what you're making it sound like is that there are thousands and thousands of serial killers out there, like tens of thousands of serial killers, all in different communities, all doing their little thingy. That's what like the fact that in Iron Lake, that one of the most prolific serial killers of all time stumbles upon another serial killer. And you could say, Jeff, you're taking it, maybe you're taking it too seriously or going, you have to instill more of a suspension of disbelief. But this was really hard for me. I could not get, it was just one of those, we're all different. Some people are okay with details like that. Other people might not be able to overlook them. I could not overlook this fact, which leads me to my biggest critique of the entire season. Okay. It was a mixed bag overall. There were elements I really enjoyed. There were elements I did not. I loved Harrison. I loved the whole Harrison thing. He was great. What I would have rather seen, instead of having Dexter do battle with another serial killer like he does in every show, in every season, I would have rather seen him commit the murder. He kills Clancy Brown's son and then have him battle Clancy Brown the entire season, but just make Clancy Brown just like a psycho. Just like
avenging his kid, but he's
exactly. He finds out, and just a cat and mouse game, and Dexter's peaceful existence is uprooted by this mistake of killing, and make it like we don't need all this. Like again, I like the whole idea, like the Runaway song, and that sort of thing was interesting. But like even like what he does, like. He's taxiderming the girls, which is like pretty macabre. But I was just kind of like his model of murder was just so vanilla. He dresses in white and shoots them as they run away. It's just so unbecoming of Dexter, worthy of a Dexter storyline. And so I was like, I'd rather him not be a serial killer. I'd rather him just be like a really rich, strong-willed guy, which he is. He's a rich, strong-willed guy who maybe does illegal things,
right, and just won't let it go.
And then it becomes a battle in a very small town between right under the sheriff's nose between Dexter and Clancy Brown. Far more fascinating to me. So instead, the series isn't focusing on Dexter being a murderer. Like, forget that. That dies with the show.
Yeah.
What unravels Dexter is this choice he makes at the very beginning of the show. by killing this one guy because he kills a sacred wolf, he ends up unraveling and killing his life, destroying his life because he returns to the murder. As long as he doesn't murder, he'll be safe. And then he kills the wolf. That makes him kill the guy, and then just to relive his glory days, he does the whole thing. Same thing. Spiderweb's the thing, but then the entire series, and then obviously Harrison getting groomed and turning against him, Cobra Kai style.
Right.
Like
right.
you just it was all there, and they just did not. And then at the same time, I love seeing Angel Batista again. And that the way that thread pulled, where we see him, I mean, it was like a very coincidental, but it was perfect to me. I was like, because that's how it would have happened.
Yeah, the only thing about the Batista thing, I dug it all the way up until that very last episode. Even his last appearance, I was still into it, but I was like,
right.
Did they set this up and to just not pay it off? I mean, I didn't need Batista to be integral to the new story or anything, but why did they not just pay it off a little bit in the last episode?
I was really enjoying it, just the way that like she's slowly putting all the dots together with the ketamine. It's like it just was what they were building to in reality. And again, you know, if Dexter was going to die, I don't think he would die. I think he should have, like I said, cat and mouse battle with a non-serial killer, Clancy Brown. And then he winds up getting caught because of this whole thing with Batista and yada, yada, yada. And just end it that way.
Just while you were talking about it, I could also see him and Clancy Brown going at it. Clancy Brown actually kills him and the son avenges him.
Love that.
I mean, that doesn't exactly work with the character motivations they set up because they're trying to absolve the kid of that side of him. But I think there could have been something interesting with that.
So more about that as well. I understand where they went. They basically wanted to say, look, you are not predestined for this, and you're the source of my anger, and that I'm actually okay. But I they kind of set up way too much stuff of like, dude born in blood, carries around a straight razor, wants to murder people, is already creating these situations. Like, look, just like stay the course. He's obviously a serial killer.
They set it up too far to the serial killer route with him to pull back. And I felt like the pulling back on it kind of came a little bit out of nowhere in those last two episodes.
Yeah, like it was so unearned. And, you know, two things that really bothered me about Harrison and his relationship with Dexter. Thing number one, like they trying to fall into this normal state of domesticity. And I'm just like, no, Harrison is a kid from a broken circumstances who literally hitchhiked to get here. There's no way that he's just going to listen to Dexter when Dexter tells him to do something. He's gonna be like, fuck you. He does it a little bit. He's like, well, you weren't around. But it's just like, if my dad like told me to do, I mean, even my dad didn't abandon me. I'm saying like, I would still tell him to go fuck himself. But like if my dad abandoned me and then tried to like be my dad just because I showed up at his doorstep, I'd be like, I don't think you get to set any of those rules. Fuck you. Like, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like the falling into the domesticity thing kind of did not work for me. And then he gets enrolled in the school. I'm like, this kid wouldn't just get enrolled in the school. It's just too I mean, it created a lot. It opened up the story in many different ways for the better, but it just was too like, oh, now he's on the wrestling team. It just was a little too, no, didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But, and the other thing that bothered me was, I was so frustrated that every time these guys were alone together, father and son, that like Dexter just can't fucking tell. Like Dexter has so much to answer for, and Harrison has so many questions, and there's just so many times where they just don't say anything to each other. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, dude? Like, you know, I get it. You're a fucking you're mostly a sociopath. How are you going to be able to connect with your son? Blah, blah, blah. You can't talk. I get it. At the same time, I'm just kind of like, we had to wait until episode 9 to find out that for Harrison to find out that his father killed Trinity, something that he had been talking, like that bothered the shit out of me, dude. So I found that very, very frustrating, which kind of took me out of the season. And then we're left with this standoff. We're left with this. The final episode leaves a bad taste in my mouth as well.
Okay.
And it does so for this reason. Dexter really just goes so far out of character. He pulls a Deb. He kills this guy that he's known for 10 years. Who what the name of the guy? I forget his name. The wrestling coach.
The coach.
The
I
cop
forget
coach.
his name.
Let's call him Cop Coach.
Cop Coach is good.
Cop Coach. He kills Cop Coach, and it is so out of line and out of character. And Cop Coach has a relationship with Dexter. He has a relationship with Harrison, and Dexter kills him just so that he can escape. And even I feel like pre-revival, pre-New Blood, Dexter would never go to those lengths. He wouldn't do it.
I don't think so either.
He wouldn't do it.
But I think maybe there's an argument to be made that, like, he isn't the same person. And through the relationship with the kid, his desperation to get out is greater than it would have been in, the earlier seasons. So, like, I think, like, the father-son connection that happened over the course of this revival season was the engine that was driving him. And in just a moment of sheer desperation, he killed this guy. And I think he did legitimately regret it. I don't think it was
he did.
Yeah,
he did. But, at the same time, what he says to Harrison just really sums it all up. He's so desperate to be with Harrison. And Harrison goes, wait, what happened to Cop Coach? And he's like, I killed Cop Coach. And it's just like, it's like you could see how inconvenienced Dexter is by even having to have this conversation right now. Like, he's like, oh my God, we got to get fucking going. And what's so interesting is literally in a span of 10 minutes, he doesn't even realize that this is his final day on Earth. He's about to be murdered. And he welcomes it. And he goes from wanting to live and run away in the course of a 10-minute conversation with his son to being like, yeah, okay, kill me. That's cool. Yeah. And all of it just felt so displaced. And then, like, at least Harrison should have become a fucking killer. He should have become a dark passenger and drove off into, we got no epilogue for that either.
Right. And maybe he does, but I agree with you. But I think it was like the final turn was rushed into, and I know I just said that the series should have been shorter, but that change, that arc should have happened long. It should have been set up better, and it should have. Yeah. But I think it was a fine resolution. I just think the execution of it was off.
I would have accepted the resolution. I would have accepted the resolution a lot easier if that took a whole episode to get to that point.
Yeah, exactly. It really felt like, and honestly, for a minute there, it felt like I was watching, like an 80s drama where just in the third act, hey, we have to wrap it up. So this person's got to do this. So they do this,
And, I really, really, really would have been okay with everything if we had gotten two more things after that. Like, let's say that everything goes down the way that it does. I would have let it all go had we gotten to see a final Batista scene to wrap up Batista, right? Which I bet you they shot. Maybe they cut it or something because it was so weird to have him on the way.
Because it really felt like they were building to something something that had to have paid off at some point. Anyway,
and I loved the interactions at the end where she catches him. Like, that was good stuff too. And it that's what the focus of the story should have ended up being at the end. And then he gets extradited.
Not to get off on a tangent, but did you watch The Shield at all?
I never watched The Shield.
Well,
everybody told me to.
Yeah, you'll love it. But what I got in the last two episodes, I got some really heavy, like, last season of The Shield vibes when the interrogation stuff. But anyway, I won't go too into it because you haven't seen it. But
no, I have not seen it.
I highly recommend it.
I'll get to it at some point, for sure. And that's Kurt Sutter, right?
Yeah, Kurt Sutter, pre Sons of Anarchy.
I love Sons of Anarchy.
I like Sons of Anarchy too, but Shield's a whole other level.
I am definitely going to check out The Shield at some point. Yeah. The other thing that we needed in addition to the Batista scene, was I needed to see Harrison in a new place, set up life for himself, either as a serial killer or as just like being okay and like going off. Like
going somewhere, he's okay, but there's like a hint of that would have, like, you seen him on a college campus or whatever, and just eyeballing somebody and like,
ready? How about this? Let's write it right now, super quick. Harrison winds up on a college campus in a criminology forensics class.
Oh shit! Yeah, okay,
right. I mean, how much better are you? Like, like that's it. You don't even have to have like a little twist on the end of that.
No,
just
not
have
at all.
him have him learning, and it's like, which way is he going to go? Is he going to become a cop, or is he going to be using this for nefarious purposes?
Oh yeah, I even see how it's shot. They start on the professor's doing his thing, and it just goes into this really long push into an extreme close up on Harrison, and then bam, cut to black.
Okay, actually, I changed my mind. I have one little flourish I'll add to that, and that's, you're right. And you know what that professor would be talking about? He'd be talking about something in relation to serial killers, or talking about blood. He'd be talking about blood splatter patterns, obviously, because that's what Dexter's dad was all about. But in his pocket is still the straight razor, and he's playing with it. How about that?
Yeah, I could see that.
Good or bad, that is just like that straight razor is a part of him. It was also really nice to see John Lithgow for a second. That made me geek the fuck out. I was yo, they did bring him back. So, and that's it. And again, if they never do anything with Dexter, or I should say Harrison, I'm totally, I don't really care. I'm apathetic at this point.
Me too. I doubt seriously they will, but I'm sure it's been discussed, but
I'm sure they left it. Well, they left him alive. So, one last thing that I will say, where I thought Harrison's arc was going, I thought Harrison had some sort of revenge, because we find out, and it's never explained really, Harrison knew that his father killed the son. He was watching the whole thing happen from behind the bushes. In the final episode, we see a shot of Harrison watching Dexter murder Matt, the son of Clancy Brown. So he knew that his dad was a killer that whole fucking time. And I thought, because he had the straight razor with him, that maybe, and I kept thinking he's going to turn on Dexter, or he's going to end up being the big bad. How crazy would it have been if Harrison was a serial killer too? See, there you go. There's your serial killer. How about that? Okay. One final thing, and we're going to wrap this up. How about if Harrison comes to town? Dexter never murders anyone. He doesn't murder Matt's son. Harrison finds him. Harrison has a killing problem. Dexter's trying to cover up all of Harrison's mess throughout the entire season.
And totally different show, but I could
totally
see
different show. Harrison kills Matt. Harrison kills Matt, the son of Clancy Brown, and then Clancy Brown takes it out on Dexter, who he thinks is the murderer, because he's protecting his son, who is the actual murderer. Such a better, I mean, like, there you go. Like, that writes itself over 10 episodes. And then it ends with Dexter getting caught. Dexter sacrifices himself, gets caught, so that his son can go free and live by the code. He gives his son the code. So the son is never redeemable in terms of being a serial killer, but he gives his son the tools to change his ways of being a serial killer. And then we cut to that final scene in college, where he's taking the courses because he's learning how to be a better serial killer, playing with the straight razor in his pocket. Boom, signed, sealed, delivered.
Okay. Yeah. I'll watch that.
I want to thank VJ Horton so much for coming on the show and discussing Dexter. He will return in the very near future to discuss the final season of Yellow Jackets. So stay tuned.
Season of Yellow Jackets.
Sorry, the first. That's what I meant to say. What did I say?
I think you said final.
Yeah, I meant to say the first season of Yellow Jackets, another Showtime show. So stay tuned. All of Jay's links are in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. He's a phenomenal channel, just killing it on the content. He's also making a movie, and he's going to be doing a crowdsourcing campaign for it. What is that movie about, real quick?
Sure. It's Craving. It's a horror movie, crime thriller. It's about a group of heroin addicts. The drug deal goes wrong. They end up in a kind of a hostage situation in a roadhouse bar where they're besieged by the cops. And as they're going through withdrawal, it turns out one of them, we don't know which one, is a monster and will turn. And that's so, you know, kind of American Werewolf in London, a little Dog Day Afternoon, a little From Dusk Till Dawn.
I was going to say a little From Dusk Till Dawn. I love it. I love it. This is great. I can't wait for the Indiegogo campaign. I will be kicking in to support the creation of this content. So make sure you keep your eyeballs around for Craving. That will be coming out. I want to thank I want to thank VJ Horton again. And one last thing we forgot to do. We are sponsored by riotstickers.com. Make sure that if you need stickers, you need to go to riotstickers.com, independently owned company. Sharpie Riot, he's great. We're doing a special deal only available through the Frumess channel. Normally this is $59, but for your band or your film or your project, whatever it may be, for $29.50, that's 50% off. You can get 50 3-inch by 3-inch stickers. That's 9 inches of 9 square inches of real estate for you to put your logo, and you can get that 50% off with the promo code Frumess right there. That link is down in the description as well. Click on that link, go in. I'm going to play us out with the video for riotstickers.com, and I'll see you in a moment, Mr. Horton.
Posters and promo cards, there's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on shirts, we can print on hats, we can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality, quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support, great customer service, and so much more. We are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.